And we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan, and I am your in-house conservative. To my left, Rob Ambrose, our token liberal. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that it's possible for a lefty and a righty to not only get along, but to be able to have a civil conversation when we disagree. Because never forget, common sense has no political affiliations. On today's show, what are we talking about? First, Mark's Carney's 103 conflict of interest. Then we're going to talk about that Bongino and Kash Patel saying that they might quit the FBI over the way Bondi handled the Epstein files. A new report exposes CBC's massive salary increases over the past few years. Alberta's sports ban on males in women's sports has a loophole. A 21-year-old fights for his life after being hit by a 5-time convicted drunk driver. The worst part is he's already out on bail. And at 12:30, we do have John Carpay from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom joining us so that we can talk about what's going on in Nanaimo, BC. If you haven't heard about the new bylaw, you definitely want to stick around for this one. Get your comments ready because the show starts now. What's going on, man?
What's happening, brother? You're getting better at that.
Well, it's hard to get worse.
Yeah, exactly. So how was the weekend?
Only up from here.
Only up. It can only go up. How was the weekend? How's the new sleep schedule with the baby?
Like the baby is literally like, so I have my screens right here. We installed a crib right there, so I can.
Also, you're watching them as you go.
Right. Well, my wife is right next to me, but he's right there sleeping because that's what he does. But yeah, man, we were in the hospital until Sunday. He got released yesterday, so he's good now. He just small, man. He wasn't even 5 pounds. He was like 4.9, 4.8 pounds when he was born.
Wow.
And he's not a preemie. Like, he was born at 38.5 weeks or 38 weeks plus 4 days. So
wow.
Yeah.
But he's healthy and everything's good there.
He has problems with, he's so small, he doesn't have any fat on him, so he has problem keeping his heat up, meaning that the more his body fights to keep his heat up, the more he burns through sugar, glucose, and glucose is the #1 thing a baby needs in order to grow his brain. So now you have that vicious cycle. There's not enough sugar. That's why they kept us for from Thursday to Sunday, because he wasn't he had 0.6. The level was 0.6. His glucose was 0.6 when it should have been 2.6.
Oh, wow.
But by the time he left, he was at 4.4. But man, he was on IV for a while. So they tried a bunch of stuff to keep his glucose up. They did the IV, and then they needed to spend half a day removing the IV, and then they needed 24 hours of him being above 3.2. So
he must. Does he eat a lot? Is he pretty hungry all the time?
Well, now, yes, because imagine that he didn't know. I was literally feeding him with a cup, like a little cup, put formula in, because my wife hasn't. My wife now has her. She can produce milk now, but 4 days ago she couldn't. Right, like she just given birth, so the process barely started, so she was barely producing. And yeah, man, I was feeding him with a cup. Like, imagine a 4.5 pound, like 4.8 pound baby. I'm 230 pounds trying to hold him, not to crush his skull, and try to feed him with a little, like, imagine
like a food dropper or something.
Not even. It's just like, imagine a shot glass. You know, a plastic shot glass when you were when you were 18. Imagine taking that and feeding that to, like, having to feed 40 milliliters or so.
Jesus,
it was
wow.
Every 3 hours, right? So I slept in a the gravity free camping chairs. You know, the one you go backwards and they somehow stay there if you don't move. I slept on that for 4 days. I was literally in the ward right next to him the whole time. So,
well, at least he's home now.
Man. He's good. He's just small. He's just small. It's okay.
He'll pick up fast.
Oh, fuck yeah. At the rate I'm feeding him. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And when I
usually
say me, like I'm not, it's not just me, right? I'm talking my wife.
of
And
course, of course. Yeah, we figured
it's,
that. Yeah.
yeah, she's not just a cow producing milk, right?
Are you getting the look?
Everything I say online, I've said before to her
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
So
yeah, sure, sure.
she knows this is not a personality that I put on for a show. This is just who the fuck I am, and I'm worse in real life.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
controlled on camera.
That's, yeah, that's funny. Wise guy, how's it going, sir? Pam,
brother.
good to see you. Hopefully, you guys all had an excellent weekend. Sounds like we got a pretty packed show today. So you want to jump right into it?
Just after I say to the people on X, make sure to like, make sure to comment.
Yes, good call.
Make sure to re-share this stream if you really want to help us. If you do want to share, join the conversation, make sure, because you know, as the show goes, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of comments right here. It's all on the YouTube channel. So if you do want to have your voice heard, make sure to join us at the Poli Orphans on YouTube. Subscribe, obviously. Comment, because you are the people shaping the show. Our commenters shape the show.
Yep.
And if you believe in a new wave of independent media, because there's a lot of independent media over there,
oh, way
out
over
there. Over there. But there's a lot of independent media, but you all know that they're bought by either parties. Like all the independent media that we see now,
they're not that independent. We mean actually,
they're independently not part of the CBC.
They're independently wealthy from all the money that they're getting from the political parties.
Exactly. None of that shit here. So if you do believe that what we're trying to accomplish, Rob being a liberal, myself being a conservative, opening that space where people can have a civil conversation, especially when we disagree, well, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's $2.99 a month. It's not even a coffee served at the Taj Mahal. What is it? The Taj Mahortons. The Taj Mahortons. So
yes.
$2.99 a month to support real independent media.
Yeah, there you go. That's nice. Yes, and that's, as Nico said, all the action does happen over on YouTube. Remember to like and share the stream, guys. And if you really want to support us, you can become a member, as Nico said, for the low price of $2.99. So let's the low price. But wait, there's more.
But there's more.
Yeah, subscribe now and get not just one membership, but two.
Not just one bald-headed fuck, but two bald-headed fuck.
There's two of us.
Here's what started the show like this. If you haven't heard about this yet, you've been fucking sleeping under a tree, under a rock. You've been sleeping somewhere. That's for them fucking sure. But if you haven't heard about this, this is something I learned last week. I was literally at the hospital and I'm looking at my stuff and I'm like, what the fuck is this? So as you see on the screen, this is the exact post. I try to keep all the posts that inform me of something so that I can give them credit, because that's a massive account on Instagram and we both follow each other and we share each other's stuff. So I got to give credit there too. So 401, that Sarpanch reports that Mark Carney's screening is complete. The Ethics Commission revealed 103 companies that are in active conflict of interest. PM Mark Carney cannot be involved in official matter or decisions that will further the interest of these companies. Little happy face, smiley face, laughing face. And yes, it's pretty fucking sad because even them, see, there you go, they actually share the companies. It's 3 pages long, but as you'll see, it's all about Brookfield. Like Brookfield. But there's a few things that I will show you afterwards that stands out about these 103 companies. But here's a look at that, bro. It's like one, two,
looks like
three.
It should have been Mark Carney that looked inside himself and not and not Rosemary Barton. You know,
well, you know what? Hold on. I love that you brought that up, because instead of just having your pleasant voice talk about this, I made sure to go get 2 videos that are very fucking important to the topic. So I figured, since you're bringing it up, there you go. This is Mark Carney telling us that conflict of interest is not a problem.
Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
Point
Finale.
Yes.
Spend most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult.
Zero.
to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
That's number one. But
look inside yourself. That's a classic. We've been using that line ever since he said that.
Even this morning I used it as a meme in a video that I was talking about this. So look within yourself, Rosemary. Look within yourself. But you know what's interesting? Here's
I'm Jillian Piper with Global News.
Here's the other one. So the first one was about conflict of interest, and this is during his campaign, right? It was in March, both of the videos. This one's March 14th. I can't remember the first one, but they are both in the month of March. If you heard, there was 2 journalists that were questioning him, and they were both female. Guess what? In this one, she's also female. So not only does he not answer the question about conflict of interest, not only he doesn't really give us a reason why he puts his money into he put his assets into a blind trust before he was even required to do so. He does seem to not really like women that much.
Prime Minister Carney, I'm Jillian Piper with Global News. I understand that your assets have been put into a blind trust. I wanted to ask you, what is the value of the assets and where did they come from? How can Canadians know that there's no conflict of interest if they don't know where the assets come from?
That's an odd question, or odd way of framing it. The assets are in a blind
No,
trust.
it's not.
So, and can I point out that for those who don't follow this, I have 6 months to put, or 120 days to put the assets in a blind trust. I already have put the assets in a blind trust.
He only did that for you, just to be sure that he wasn't breaking any rules. Obviously, he did not have 103 conflict of interest. That's not why he puts his stuff. He did put his stuff in a trust before people could actually see what the fuck was in his assets, right? But as you saw, 3 pages long, 100. And those, so maybe I should have started with this. You do realize that conflict of interest means that you have connections to a company, you have money in that company, you own options like $6.8 million of options in Brookfield, for example, which is an investment firm that has a portfolio of about $1 trillion. Yeah. So their assets are everywhere. So those companies are literally, he has money in those companies. He has worked for those companies. He was part of boards on those companies. It's just to say that he's been telling us that there's no problem, that he's put his money into a blind trust before it was needed. But here we are.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's, this has kind of been the main story that's been following Carney around. As far as I can see, there's been other ones, but like this seems to me like there's more, the most there, the most meat on the bone.
The most there.
Yeah, the most there. And honestly, the main reason that I think both of us really focus on this was his reaction to these kind of questions, because those are absolutely
point final.
Stereotypical, like those are absolutely reasonable, typical questions anyone is going to ask any politician, especially one who's known to have some wealth behind him, like Mark Carney. And as I'm reading all these lists of the 103 of these conflicts of interest, it occurs to me that I'm sure that he first of all, what he said in that interview there, I did everything by the book and legal. I think he's probably actually right. I think
he is 100%
legal. It's legal, but that's completely not that should not be the standard, because you can absolutely have real, true conflicts of interest that are technically legal. I'm sure he did put it in a blind trust, his assets. There's a couple things going on though. One, I mean, he was a top executive at Brookfield literally until he became prime minister. He jumped immediately from there to here. So it really doesn't matter if he puts his personal assets in a blind trust. He knows very well what Brookfield's strategy is. Brookfield does not have to sell any of their assets. Brookfield didn't have to put their assets in a blind trust. He knows what decisions will benefit Brookfield and what will not. And it's utterly naive to think that he doesn't have some handshake agreement in that whatever you do here as prime minister that benefits Brookfield, you're going to get a cut of it when the dust settles here. And that is unfortunate.
But it's even more than that.
That's
$6.8 million in option. He doesn't even have to have a handshake. He literally owns almost $7 million of options.
So
handshake or not?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Handshake.
So just in case, like the audience isn't quite sure what options are. Options are basically it's kind of like a stock, except you don't. It's basically you have the right to buy a stock at a certain price, but not the obligation. So if I have 100 options on Apple stock at $5 a share, that means that at any time until the options expire, I can go out and buy 100 shares of Apple for $5 a share. Now, I don't know what the price of Apple is right now, but I'm sure it's like $700 or something. So I would obviously, I would execute those options, buy them for $5, sell them immediately on the open market for $700. So it's basically guaranteed money. If your option price is above what the market price is, you just wouldn't buy them. So it's essentially free money. There's no risk to it. If the price of your options are above what you can sell them on the market, you just won't buy them and it doesn't cost you a thing. If they're below it, you can buy them and then immediately sell them. So they very much are an asset in any tangible sense of the word, except as far as, blind trusts and conflicts of interest, legality, a stock option is not considered an asset the way that owning that stock would, although it is for all intents and purposes owning the stock. So that's a good example of what we mean when we say, yeah, technically it's legal, but it's against the spirit of the law, if not the letter.
Well, I'll take one single comment just because it drives the conversation to pretty much what you're saying is Pam is saying that legally right doesn't make it morally correct. Carney should know that as a practicing Catholic. Wow. Wow.
I mean,
that is not fuck.
A practicing Catholic. I feel like that's
wow.
That's a bit. I mean, I know Pam's right. Officially he is, and if you ask him,
that is great. That is great.
Yeah, that's a great comment.
That is just literally a 1-2 to the dome with a high kick right below. That's
a good comment, Pam. Right there. Because there's always there's the letter of the law and there's the spirit of the law, right? The spirit is what we all understand the law to mean. In this context, the spirit of the law is to mean that so that a politician doesn't make decisions for the country that are actually skewed because they benefit this man personally. And the letter of the law will mean things like if you own stocks of a company, you have to sell them. But owning options of a company is not, it follows the letter of the law because, these aren't stocks, they're options. But it completely goes against the spirit of the law because he still has that same skewed incentives to make decisions that benefit Brookfield. And I mean, what have we seen so far, right? Like one of the things he got on very early on about was the need to increase housing. Okay, sounds good so far. But specifically, modular housing, prefab housing, which, okay, why not? Until you realize that Brookfield just made a $5 billion investment in one of the largest prefab companies in Canada. And then all of a sudden you think, okay. Now, if prefab housing is actually the best policy, then okay. But the problem is, how can we know? How can we know that this is actually good policy and not just good policy for Mark Carney's bank account? That's exactly why these laws are put in place.
That's one of the problems that we can see. Then another one, remember how he promised $4.8 billion to Ukraine? Well, for the people that don't know, I've talked about this multiple times, but I will talk about it every single fucking time. Yep. Brookfield is already part of a $160 million contract as part of something called Innovation District IT Park project in the Ukraine. So what's highlighted on your screen right now, this is a project that's outgoing, that's been on the road since 2018. Brookfield is part of this. Not only are they part of this, but they're engaging right now with something called Advantage Ukraine. That's a group that its responsibility is to rebuild the Ukraine after it got destroyed. Surprise, surprise, if you didn't know, Brookfield is very heavily invested in real estate. It does a lot of reconstruction work. It does everything Ukraine needs to have done And somehow I have to believe that it's a coincidence that he just promised them $4.3 billion. But here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Like, this is another part that most people don't understand, is the part right here. That one of the main things that Brookfield invests in is renewable energy. Do you think it's a surprise that he's always talking about climate change, that he's always talking about his green energy agenda, when even his overlords in the US, not in the US, in the EU, are dropping them because that doesn't make them competitive? He does not care if Canada's competitive or not, as long as Brookfield makes more fucking money. And that's one of the things that they're heavily fucking invested in, is renewable energy. So when you start looking at everything put together between his stock options at Brookfield, the fact that he was on the board of directors, the fact that Brookfield is in the Ukraine, Brookfield does a lot of work with prefab, they do a lot of work with infrastructure. And what is he always talking about? Infrastructure project. That's what Bill C5 is all about. You start looking at renewable energy and his climate change and green agenda. How the fuck is that not a massive conflict of interest? But you know, the thing that probably pisses me the most, that pisses me off the most, not that it surprises me, but is that CBC is playing it down.
Of course I am.
Like, if you go check, like, I won't read the whole articles because the whole article is insane, but there's an article called Ethic Commissioner Publishes List of MPs Carney's Investment. See how they're spinning? Just the title. No, it's not just his list of investment. The whole point is that the ethic commissioner realized that he cannot get involved in any business that has to do with the 103 companies that he has money invested with. It's not just his investment, it's the fact that he's a fucking PM and he has the power to throw a shit ton of taxpayers' money to those people. And they go down, like, it's worth a read. It's really worth. I'm not going to go through it because it'll take 20 minutes. But I love the fact that, you know, Carney isn't the first prime minister who's publicly traded, shielded from view. When former Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau entered politics, he declared his company, JPJT Canada, and an interest in a numbered company that owned the property, but his publicly traded assets were held within a separate numbered company and later within a blind trust. So basically what they're saying is, stop questioning it because it's normal, because people do it. He's not the first one to do it. So you have a blind trust baby that became prime minister after having an excruciating part-time drama teacher job that did it, so it's okay for him to do it. Like, here you,
well, yeah,
how
I
are
mean,
people not opening up their eyes to this, right?
It's funny.
What the fuck?
It's funny how they're like, he's not the first prime minister to do it, implying, like, you know, other ones, many other ones, and then the only example they have is Justin Trudeau. Like, it's not really making me feel better about this. Just one final thing I'll say before we move on to some comments. You know, I think what you're talking about there about, like, the Ukraine, you know, and that's exactly why these laws are important, because as we all know, at the G7, Carney gave $4 billion to Ukraine. Now, as prime minister, he has that right, but we expect our leaders to make decisions based on what is good for Canada. And how can we know? And that is what these laws are for, because without them, we constantly have to ask that question. How can we know that this decision was made in the best interest of Canada or the best interest of his pocketbook? And just, if we want to go a little bit darker here, we're talking, you know, as you said, Brookfield got the contract to rebuild Ukraine, which means
hold on. They didn't have it yet. They don't have it yet. They're in negotiation.
Okay, you know, they've
been working on it since 2023.
Yeah, you know they're going to get it, right. So he's clearly angling that direction. So let's just assume for the second they're going to get this contract to rebuild Ukraine, which means they will make more money if it's more destroyed, right? There's more money to be made if there's more to rebuild. Ergo, it makes more sense from a purely financial standpoint. It's better in Brookfield's interest if there's more to rebuild, i.e. more destroyed of Ukraine. And one way you could do this, you know, if you wanted to do that, is prolong the war. And what's a good way you could prolong the war? Keep giving money and keep shoveling money into the war, right? Like, yes, you're shoveling money into the Ukrainian side, but all that means is they're going to put up more of a fight, which means Russia's going to send more missiles, more troops, and destroy more in Ukraine. So when you see it kind of in that direction, it gets pretty dark. You know, is he shoveling money to Ukraine simply to prolong the war so that there's more money to be made because it's more destroyed when Brookfield comes to rebuild? Now, I'm not saying that's true, but the point is we don't fucking know. It wouldn't be the first time, cough, cough, Dick Cheney, global leaders have caused the destruction of other countries in order to enrich themselves. So the entire point of these laws is so that we don't have to, so yahoos like us aren't sitting here on shows asking these kinds of credible questions, because these are credible questions. Whether they're true or not, that is the perception. And anybody who understands politics knows the perception becomes reality.
Jesus, what the fuck did you smoke over the weekend?
Yeah, I'm on fire today.
God damn, bro. Wow.
Yes.
Man, I have like a semi right now.
Yeah. Should we take a couple of these comments here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pat Dodds, never changed, Pat. Pat says, this is so funny. East idiots, like, you know, a bunch of losers. It might even seem like, I don't know, I don't even think this is geared at us personally. I mean, neither of us voted for Carney, but I just even put it up because, like, Pat's, you know, Pat's a one-trick pony. That's his thing.
You know, if he came up and just said, I cannot believe that people voted for this guy, I wouldn't have believed.
Like, yeah,
somebody took over his account. It's not him. It ain't him.
Yeah. All right, Pam. Oh, we did get that one. As Pam said, legally right doesn't make him morally correct. It's a great comment. Wise Guy says, if Brookfield and Carney were heavily invested in Canadian oil and other prominent resources instead of carbon schemes and prefab homes, that might be good. Yeah. I mean, look, technically it would be corruption still, but like, it's the kind of corruption that, like, if his interests are aligned with Canada's interests, then I personally would have no
clearly
problem. But that's not,
they're not.
That's not the case. I believe the climate change narrative, especially as it relates to government policy, is fundamentally against Canada's interests, because we are an energy superpower, or at least have the potential to be an energy superpower based on our reserves. And so when, you know, little old Canada at 1% of global emissions is slapping on carbon taxes and basically hamstringing our economy and trying to compete on the global stage by tying both our hands behind our back, all in the service of virtue signaling climate change narratives, I don't think that benefits Canada. And so it's unfortunate that Carney, Brookfield went all in on that. If Brookfield had gone all in on oil, especially Canadian oil, technically it'd still be corruption, but I personally wouldn't have a problem because their interests would be aligned with Canada's, as I see them.
But here's where it's interesting. Like Moose on the Loose did the research, and supposedly that I need to watch the whole video, but supposedly that only 0.5% of Mark Carney's portfolio is invested in Canadian companies, while 91% of his portfolios are in American companies. So three companies for 0.5% of his portfolio in Canada, and 530 companies, or 91% of his portfolio, is in the US. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's you and I, it's us that get another politician that doesn't give a fuck about Canada and that just wants to line his pockets.
Yep.
Like
100%.
Believe in all the conspiracy theories or not, you cannot argue this. Like, you just can't. The same people that were put in place by the government to protect supposedly us from them or from their conflict of interest is saying that there's 103 conflict of interest. Everybody's reporting on it. This is not a conspiracy theorist. A conspiracy theory. This is the truth. Well, the truth. Let me rephrase that. This is what we're being told. So everybody is reporting on this, right?
Yep.
So it's not a conspiracy theory.
No, not at all. We got, as Pam says, the level of enrichment is off the charts as far as I'm concerned. They couldn't give a rat's ass who they harm in the process. Yeah. And I mean, this is kind of just political corruption 101. It's the kind of thing that is done all the time. Doesn't mean we should accept it. Doesn't make it okay. We should be talking about it. We should be outraged about it.
100%.
Yeah, and we'll take this last one and then go to John Carpay, because I can see him waiting in the background there. Joe said this is why the smart people in the U.S. are up in arms about Trump's constant violation of the Emoluments Clause in our Constitution. Nobody should use public office to enrich themselves. Yeah, I mean, Trump does this kind of stuff too, and
they all do, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. They all do. As Canadians,
look at Obama.
Yeah,
look at Obama's worth. Look at Justin Trudeau's worth before and after.
Yeah, all their net worths is right. Like anyone who enters public office with a regular middle class job and leaves it 20 years later worth $200 million or $250 million, as say
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi. That's it's not even. I don't even want to say it's hiding in plain sight. It's not even hiding in plain sight. It's sitting in plain
there,
existing.
And it's not a right versus left thing.
No,
it's bipartisan. They all do it, and it's okay.
Well, and that's why shows like this are so necessary, because we're almost in a post-tribal world, because both sides are equally fucked up, and we need basically common sense truth tellers to call them out on it.
Talking about fucked up, what's going on, John? How you doing?
Yeah, talking about common sense truth tellers. How's it going, John?
I strive to be a common sense truth teller, and I think, if you were to ask the question, what's the worst problem in society, off the top of my head, I would say a lack of love for truth, or a lack of interest in truth, would be on the top 10. If there's a love for truth, you can actually have a healthy democracy, and people can approach an issue totally different opinions. But if there's a love for truth, you can kind of work, move forward. And
it's almost a choke point, right? If you have that as a base value, a lot of the other things downstream of that sort of work themselves out.
Well, sounding like an old man, I remember I'm turning 58 next month, but I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s. The left and the right in Canada, everybody was united on the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of peaceful assembly. There was no real division. You had the NDP wanted, bigger government, higher taxes, more wealth distribution, more laws, more regulations, more pro-union. And the people on the other side were, smaller government, lower taxes, whatever. And you had lots of debate. But the left of the 1980s was pro free speech and pro freedom of religion, and you didn't have this totalitarian, woke, aggressive censorship culture that is so prevalent now. And I think you wanted to talk about the city of Nanaimo, and perhaps also, I don't know if you want to talk about Yaniv and the Galaxy beauty pageant in Mississauga, Ontario.
Yeah, I read a little bit about that, but I don't know too much, but I would love to talk about that too. Guys,
how much time do you have?
How much time do you have? How much can you give us?
30, 40 minutes is great.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So 30 minutes starting now.
Now, yeah. Guys, we are talking to John Carpay of the Justice Center. What's the full name there, John? I want to make sure I get that right.
Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms.
Excellent. Yes, we're going to talk today about some issues going out in Nanaimo, BC, and apparently the Galaxy Beauty Pageant, if we can squeeze it in. So if you have any comments for John, remember to throw them in the comments, and we'll get to those.
Can I actually say that you're like a friend of the show now?
Friend of the show, I think so.
On? I consider it an honor.
Yes. Well, right back at you.
Yes, sir.
So I'll give credit where credit is due. Julian, the guy that works for you guys, sent me the following. He sent me this article saying that something interesting was going on in Nanaimo where, correct me if I'm wrong, but the city of Nanaimo, BC has passed bylaws that would prevent people from recording the city council when they're in meeting. That would also prevent normal individual from recording in public spaces like parks, for example. Is that the case? Did I resume this whole page of information?
It's actually happening all over Canada, where various towns and cities. We're gonna be very active on this front. Our lawyers are sending out warning letters. If it's a public meeting of the city council, it's the public's business. The public has a right to know what's going on. And left, right, and center, all over Canada, you have municipalities that are coming out with these bylaws that you can't videotape or audio record a public meeting of city council. It's just outrageous. It's anti-democratic. It's a violation of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression includes not only the right to speak, it also includes the right of other people to be exposed to different viewpoints, to listen, to hear other people speak. So it's a violation, not only if somebody wants to speak, but a violation of people who have a right to hear and listen to all different viewpoints. They're also shortchanged when there's censorship. So our lawyers have written a demand letter to the city of Nanaimo. So far, the mayor, Mr. Krog, I forget his first name, is quite intransigent. Too early in the morning here in Alberta for me to say the big word, but he's not cooperative. So we may have to end up suing the city of Nanaimo and filing some court papers in August. And the other bylaw is no photography in public parks, and the mayor justifies this on grounds of protecting families from pedophiles as such an outrageous comparison, because there are already laws in place. If you're in a public park with a family and there's some creep from 30 or 50 feet away that's repeatedly taking photos just of you or your family, there's all kinds of legal remedies. There's criminal harassment, there's intimidation, there's the civil tort of invasion of privacy. You can call the police, and I'm sure the police would tell the person, look, you can photograph generally in a public park, take photos of the birds and the trees. You could even take, a shot that happened to include some people. It's a public place. But if you're some, pervert that's taking multiple photos of children, there's already laws on the books, right? So it doesn't justify a complete ban on all photography and video recording in a public park. Yet this is the law that they have passed in Nanaimo, British Columbia.
That's so as you said, there's two parts to this. There's the no filming public hearings and like no filming at parks. I think as I was sort of getting up to date on this story, I kind of understood why they would want to prevent filming at hearings, because they don't want people to know what they're doing wrong for the most part. What do you think is the real reason? I know they're always going to give a justification. It's almost always bullshit. What do you think the real reason is why they want to tamp down on no filming in public parks?
I don't know. I'd have to. I've looked at the bylaws. I haven't. I'll have to talk to the lawyer on the file and get back to you as to what justifications were offered. But in a way,
and I guess it doesn't matter either, right? Like a loss of civil rights is a loss of civil rights. It doesn't matter why they're doing it. I'm just more curious myself.
I think it does matter why, though, because it's helpful to peer into their mindset and see, maybe they have a legitimate concern, right? But they're going about it the wrong way. And you get this we have a bylaw in Calgary where it's illegal to protest against a drag queen story hour reading to drag queen reading books to children.
Wild.
And the bylaw put it, you have to be, I think it was 100 meters away, which is so far away that your protest becomes irrelevant. And they say, well, we have to protect people's safety. The fact of the matter is, it's already illegal to obstruct a doorway. If you prevent somebody from entering or leaving, that's a criminal code offense, obstruction, to physically obstruct somebody from going about their business, blocking somebody on a sidewalk, preventing people from entering and leaving a building, already criminal. Uttering threats is already a criminal code offense. Harassment, criminal harassment, the intimidation, causing a disturbance. There's all these offenses. So the bad behavior is already criminal. You just need to enforce existing laws. So when they pass a bylaw saying, well, you can't protest against a drag queen story hour 100 meters away, You can protest in favor of it right next to the door. That's okay.
Of course.
Right? That's just targeted political censorship is what they're doing. So, but I mean, there's maybe there's a good intention. You want to avoid, obstruction and shouting and threats and pushing and shoving and all of this stuff. But those laws are already on the books.
That's what's interesting because Derek Reimer, a pastor out of Calgary, has been arrested time and time again. He's been in prison for this. I think $200,000 more or more in legal defense up to now. He even texted me last week. He's like, "Hey man, I'm out of prison again. Like they arrested me again. I'm out." So he's going to be on the show on Wednesday to talk about this. But this is absolutely ridiculous. And one of the things I can't understand is, yes, what the city is doing is completely wrong. That is going after people's freedom of speech. But I also, there was a story that broke out not too long ago. I think it was last week here in Montreal, where there was 3-4 guys sitting outside of a public pool, and they were taking pictures, they were taking video, they were screaming at the people on the other side because there's it's a gated area. And nobody did anything. And that's another thing, right? There's an onus on good men out there to do something. Because my son was born a few days ago, and if you ever think,
congratulations.
In French, merci monsieur. That if you start taking pictures of him in a public area, I don't need the police to help me.
You don't need a bylaw.
Your bylaw is not your piece of paper is not going to stop me. I'm going to stand up to those guys because most people don't anymore, and it's unfortunate, right? Because the government's always going to try to take your rights away. If there's one thing that seems to be pretty constant, is that. But I'm curious. Like Rob said, I'm curious to see what they're going to say as to what the reason,
motivation behind there's always the given reason, and then there's probably the real reason, and they're often
it doesn't matter outside of, like you said, the intent matters to understand your enemy, right? I always want to understand your enemy and see where their mind's at, but at the end of the day, it's still 100% censorship, and we all know that it's not for our own good. They can tell us that it's for the sake of children, and that Simpson character, please think about the children. Every time I hear about that, that's what I see. And that's
if they were worried about children, they probably might, not ban protesting drag queen story hour, but that's a different. But I digress. But yeah, John, I was like. Something that you had said when you first started, I think some people might hear this Nanaimo, BC, especially the rest of us east of BC are like, fucking BC's kind of, they're always doing kooky things. Who cares? But as you said, your organization is sounds like they're pretty focused on this. Do you expect this to sort of become a trend? Do these sorts of things, once these bylaws and laws sort of take root in one area, do they tend to spread to the rest of the country?
Censorship spreads like a cancer, and it both legally and culturally, right? There's two dimensions that are important. If it becomes culturally accepted that our government has some sort of a right to decide who can speak and who can't, that can become part of the social fabric, part of the political culture, so to speak, and it can spread that way. But legally as well, if these things are not challenged in court, it sends a signal to other municipalities. So right now, another one, this happened to be in BC, but I'm aware of it happening in other provinces as well. There was a school board meeting in Chilliwack, and we're providing lawyers for a lady by the name of Linda D. Armani, and she had her microphone shut off because the school board chairman didn't like what she was saying. Carolyn Burjowski in Ontario had her microphone shut off because she was actually disagreeing with books that were in the school library. Sure. Some of it's appalling. In Alberta, the government has actually stepped in to prohibit graphic sex cartoons in books that are in children's libraries. I mean, it's astounding how far this has gone. But in Chilliwack, they also said you can't record this public meeting of the school board. That's just outrageous, because how else do you have democratic accountability if you don't have the recording? Now, they might argue that sometimes it can be beneficial for city council to have an in-camera session where there's no recording. And that can be very positive because you can, if you're not being recorded, you can speak more candidly. And so the councillors could have very, very honest discussion and not worry about, they're saying the wrong thing is going to offend somebody and they're going to lose votes. They can have a very candid in-camera discussion. But the laws are already there. I think every municipality in Canada has provisions that council can have a session about an issue in camera and says, okay, well, we're going to go off the record. We're going to have this in-camera session on a narrow, targeted basis for a particular issue. But that can never be pretext for making the recording illegal. We had a school board case in Ontario as well. There was a Catholic school board wanted to prohibit a certain gentleman from video recording, audio recording the meetings. These are public meetings of a taxpayer-funded Catholic school board. Our lawyer sent a demand letter, and the school board backed down and said, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you can video record and audio record at a public meeting. So it's just important to push back because the worst thing that we can do is just be passive and silent, and then they will take that as an endorsement, and they do more and more of it.
Yeah. You go ahead, Nico.
No, all I was going to say is that I'm on your website right now, and I'm just reviewing some of the cases that you guys are covering, and the other story that you wanted to cover, because I'm trying to be recognizant that you only have half an hour. So if you want to talk about it, and I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, well, there's two comments. First, where's the newsletter? Don't you guys have a newsletter I can join to receive all those things? Because I've been hit in the face a lot in the past, so I don't remember all the websites I need to go visit every day. But a newsletter coming right in my inbox would be perfect, because I would have talked about this.
Well, I also love this format too, where anytime something big, John comes onto the show and talks about it, because I think I think some of these are some extremely important stories. As Nico was just saying, like, it's not always getting out there. Like the story the second story you want to talk about, I honestly, I don't even know what it's about. I just, in my mind, for whatever reason, I have a memory of just scrolling social media earlier today and seeing Galaxy pageant, but I don't know what it's about. And if that's, these, I feel like a lot of the things your organization gets involved with are really, really important.
Well, we send out news releases to media, okay, and some weeks are very busy. We have 2, 3, 4 news releases in 1 week, probably averaging 1 or 2 a week news releases. For a lot of people, that's way too many emails. So we have news releases for media. You should be getting those, hopefully. But then we have an email newsletter. If you go to our website, you can sign up. The email newsletter is only sent out once or twice a month, because we find people don't want a lot more than that.
I'm just asking Julian right now to add me to the news release for media, because I want to I receive 4, 5, 6 different newsletter every single day, because that's all we do, right? So I want to know, because the Nanaimo thing I did not know until Julian sent it to me. I posted on Instagram about it, reached thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I think my post somewhat went viral on Instagram, and people were not aware that this is going on. So all those cases, I want to talk about this. We talk about this every day, and the fact that we kind of have you to come on here, or the lawyer directly that's working on the case to come on here when it makes sense, is just a plus to me. It's just, I need to know that this is going on, that you guys are working on this.
Well, and the context is so important, because I think, a lot of these things by nature are going to be framed in such a way that seems almost like it makes sense, or it's good, or it's inoffensive, like, the no filming in parks thing, especially the given reason, so that pedophiles can't film kids. I think a lot of people will be like, oh, okay, sounds great. They don't really get into is this actually a problem? Are there many pedophiles filming kids? Like, let's dig into it. And I think that's where there's so much value in having someone like yourself, John, come on the show.
We appreciate
so that's what you were talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, do you want?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Yaniv Simpson, yeah. So Yaniv is.
I'm familiar with this guy.
Or Jessica Simpson. Jessica Simpson. That is such an insult.
Definitely not Jessica Simpson.
At one point, it was Jonathan Yaniv, and now it's Jessica Simpson. And so maybe I'll alternate between Yaniv and Simpson. Maybe I should say Simpson because we do have a legal right to change our names if we want. So if this person is going with Simpson, then we'll say Simpson. I could get in trouble with the Law Society of Alberta. I would get a threatening letter if I misgendered this person Simpson. But when this person was Jonathan Yaniv, I first became aware of it around 2018, 2019. Yaniv was phoning up for Brazilian bikini wax.
Yeah.
He would phone
the testicle gun, ball waxing guy.
Women. He would phone women and say, I want to book an appointment for Brazilian bikini wax. And a lot of these women were immigrants to Canada, some in East Indian and from other countries, and they're working from their own home. And there could be small children around present, in the home. And these women would say, sorry, I only provide this service for women. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan Yaniv, Jessica Yaniv, whatever, would file a human rights complaint against these women. And they were terrified. And he would try to extract settlement payment. Well, pay me $5,000 or $2,000 and we can settle the complaint and I'll go away. And one of the women, before coming to the Justice Center, she had been turned down by, I forget if it was 17 law firms or 13 law firms, but it was a huge amount. And they all said, we're not going to take on your case because then we would be publicly criticized for being transphobic. Excuse me, sorry. So we defended these women before the Human Rights Commission, and the lawyer on the file, a friend of mine, Jay Cameron, he actually had to, he never thought when he was called to the bar to become a lawyer that he would ever have to do this cross-examination. He cross-examined Yaniv as to whether Yaniv had male genitalia, and Yaniv tried to avoid the question, but eventually admitted to having the twig and berries. Yes. And the Twitter nickname that was assigned was Wax My Balls was the Twitter handle. And so we represented these women. We were successful in getting the human rights complaint thrown out. And so the women were very grateful for whom we provided the representation. So not long thereafter, Yaniv applied to participate in the Galaxy Beauty pageant, which is in Mississauga, Ontario. And they had a very accommodating policy. They said if you were a fully transitioned female, transgender, so if you had your private parts removed, you could enter into their beauty pageant as a woman. You could be in the change room and everything else. But not if you still have your male genitalia intact, because it's a women's change room. It's a women's only event. They don't even want fathers, brothers, uncles, grandfathers. There's no men in the women's change room, period.
Eminently reasonable.
So Yaniv filed a human rights complaint citing discrimination on the basis of gender identity, gender expression, which Ontario and every other province has this added as a prohibited ground of discrimination. And our position, Alison Pejovic is the lawyer on the case, and it's just like girls and women, especially girls, but also women, should not be exposed to male genitalia in a women's change room, period. That's it. It's black and white. So we are providing Alison Pejovic and other lawyers for Galaxy Beauty pageant to defend against this human rights complaint.
Before you go, hold on, Rob. I know that you go on the.
Oh yeah, this one's right up my alley.
I'm going to stop you for a second just to put pictures to perspective here. This is a guy that has been taking pictures. Clearly, there's a bunch of pictures of him taking videos, recording videos of himself as a dude. He's not even trying to look like a woman right now in the bathroom. Like we're not just
women's bathroom. Let me play devil's advocate on this. Maybe those are old photos. I've also heard, and I don't know if it's true. I've heard that Yaniv went ahead with the surgery, and went all the way, and that's the situation now.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe that's on the internet as well. I vaguely recall a few years ago there was some posting about Yaniv having completed the surgery to go all the way.
Look at this guy.
Simpson, I should say.
You know, the thing is there are some men out there that actually look quite feminine.
He ain't one of them.
This,
he ain't one of them.
Come on, like, come on.
It's like
Rob said, rabbit hole given to you by Rob Ambrose.
Yeah, yes. I mean, the whole this kind of story is a lot of these issues are right up my alley. I actually wasn't aware, John, that the Justice Center, because I'm quite familiar with the Jessica Yaniv / Jessica Simpson story, and I didn't know that you guys handled that. And I don't know. I just think that's I think that just shows exactly how important the work you guys do are. I had a question. And this is kind of, as Pam says, she says, what John can't say is that this nut job targets immigrant women who don't know their way around the system. Now, you don't need to comment on that directly, but I think there's a lot of truth in what Pam says. And so if someone has a situation like this and they need legal help, like these immigrant women, does your firm do, is this pro bono work, or is it sort of reduced rate or so? Yeah, okay. I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the clients don't get charged. Like how our business model works is we have about 10,000 donors all across Canada, right? That give us $1,000 a year or $100 a year or $10,000 a year or whatever. So we all amounts are helpful. So we get 10,000 people that donate, and then we have a budget to pay for full-time staff lawyers. And so we have 10 full-time staff lawyers all across Canada. And then people apply on our website for legal help. We try to take on as many cases as possible, but for a country of 40 million people, 10 lawyers is actually not very many. So we're forced, due to limited resources, we actually have to turn down the majority of incoming requests, but each request is reviewed by the legal team. So when we take on a case, the lawyer will provide the legal services, legal representation without charge to the client. If the client wants to donate to the Justice Center, they're free to do so, but they're not obligated. So it's pro bono legal services that are paid for by donors by way of having full-time staff lawyers that are paid a salary for their full-time work. And that's how the business model operates. And then we're a registered charity. We issue official tax receipts to the donors.
Okay, so it's a taxable donation, and that's why I wanted to sort of highlight that, because I just think it shows how how absolutely important the work that you guys do is, and if any of our audience, before we finish this talk, we'll of course give you a little chance to plug where they can donate, because I think that there's a need for that. As Pam had said, a lot of these people are in this specific case, these are immigrant women just trying to make a living, just trying to run their business. And they are essentially being picked on by what can only be described as predatory behavior, right? As you said, this guy probably doesn't really care about the civil rights aspect. He understands what's going on. He understands most women are not going to want to wax a man's balls, even if that man has a wig on and calls himself a woman. And, as you said, they were terrified. They were scared. And I think there's, I have all the respect in the world for what you guys do. But it's also interesting to see him pop up over here in Ontario now, doing essentially the same thing. So you guys you have taken that case, or where are we on that?
Yeah, we're providing lawyers to Galaxy Beauty Pageant to defend against the human rights complaint, which obviously is going to be helpful to them, because the thing about the human rights complaint, Ezra Levant wrote a book, could have been 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm not sure what. I think it was called, it wasn't called extortion, it was a shakedown. Yeah. And there are some people, they abuse the human rights legislation by extorting a settlement. And you know what, if you wanted to make a business decision, meaning a monetary decision, it actually makes more sense for a business to write a check for 5,000, 10,000, even 20 or 30,000, because if they defend against the human rights complaint, they're going to be out of pocket 50,000 or 100,000. And so what often happens, and then Ezra Levant provides, the book's called Shakedown. It's very well written, and it's got the real real life examples of what all's gone on. And so a lot of businesses will just they'll pay the money to settle the complaint, and it does get abused by individuals who just use it for easy money.
You're reading my mind, because I was going to say exactly that. Do you think, as you mentioned at the beginning, that Jessica Simpson tried to get paid to go away when that hashtag wax my balls outrage was out there? And do you think that's exactly what's going on right now? Because I can't stop myself from, clearly he's not putting the effort in to even look like a woman. Couldn't it be just monetarily driven? And this is where you seem to allude by mentioning Israel's book Shakeup, right? And this is monetarily driven, and
because these human rights complaints, they're always free for the person who makes the complaints. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the commission will always pay for the person making the complaint. The person defending, of course, doesn't get that right. And if you're if it's one thing if you're a Fortune 500 company, but if you're just an immigrant doing nails or waxing, probably don't have the resources to, as you said, defend yourself against this.
That's it in a nutshell. They're very expensive to defend against because, well, the lawyers these days are charging $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour, maybe $300 an hour for somebody who just got called to the bar, has just completed their 12-month apprenticeship, their articles, and adding. Now, ironically, the sad thing about the human rights legislation is that in most provinces, they don't prohibit discrimination based on political viewpoint. And so if you're a restaurant or dry cleaning business or whatever, any kind of a business, you cannot discriminate. You cannot refuse to serve a customer because of the customer's race or gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, religion, so on and so forth. You can discriminate based on their political belief or political opinion. So you can legally, in most provinces, you can hang up a sign outside your door saying, "We don't serve libertarians, conservatives."
Really? That's wild.
Christians, that would be a problem. That would be a religion. But you can refuse
no conservatives, no MAGA. Wow.
Yeah. If I'm not going to serve you because you're wearing the MAGA hats. So get out. You file a human rights complaint unless that particular province has political belief as a prohibited ground of discrimination. You can get away with it. I don't really have a problem with that per se. I think the market will take care of itself, right? If there's some restaurant that's not going to serve libertarians and conservatives, well, maybe other restaurants are going to say we refuse to serve socialists here. It's complicated. I mean, the intention behind the human rights legislation is good. These laws were brought in the 1960s to make it. You can't hang up a sign saying we don't hire women or we don't serve Jews. You can't have those signs up. But now with the woke ideology gaining traction, certainly at universities, you've got human rights legislation probably being violated by job advertisements that say, only dark-skinned, transgender Aboriginal can apply.
Underrepresented or visible minorities.
Underrepresented, which is
of course, code word. We all know the euphemisms. So just getting back to the Jessica Yaniv thing, the thing that I think always when people, just normal people who aren't super politically involved, hear stories like this, they're like, okay, like what about the rights of the women, right? With regard to that pageant, do they not have a right to single sex accommodation? Some people would say, like, is gender identity encoded into the law in the way that sex is, or has it just been interpreted to mean sex?
No, unfortunately, even like here in Calgary, where I live, there's a community sports complex close to my house. It's called the Southland Leisure Center, and it has a swimming pool, wave pool, hot tub, hockey rink, gym, all kinds of rooms, sports, whatever. It's a big recreation complex. And it would be, this has never happened, and my daughters don't go there often anyways because they're interested in different things. But it's possible for a dude to go into the women's change room at the Southland Leisure Centre and say, I identify as a woman. And the Southland Leisure Centre would say, well, she has a right to be there because, you know, she is transgender. This is the law. We have the federal prisons case. The Justice Centre is providing lawyers for the Canadian Association of Women for Sex-Based Rights. Men get into federal prisons, and most of these, 90% have been convicted of either a sexual offense, convicted, not just charged or accused, convicted of a sexual offense or convicted of a violent offense, or both, 90%. All they need to say is, I identify as a woman, and boom, they get a transfer. I mean, maybe not the same day, maybe it takes, you know, a few weeks and some paperwork, this and that. So you have these trans-identifying males who, with fully intact male genitalia, are getting into women's prisons. This has been the case since 2017, when Parliament passed Bill C-16, which added gender identity and gender expression to the Canadian Human Rights Act, as well as to the Criminal Code hate provisions. So it is illegal to willfully promote hatred against people based on their gender identity, gender expression. So we've got that court case against the federal government suing to end the federal policy and to say that you cannot get in, you should not be allowed to be transferred into a women's prison if you've got your male genitalia intact.
That being said, John, I know you said 30 to 40 minutes. It's 40 minutes on the dot right now because Rob is never going to stop. This could go for 10 hours straight. So I just wanted to be
my rabbit hole.
I just want to be cognizant.
If you want to do another one or two questions, yeah.
I've only got one more. I just wanted to basically add on to what you were just saying. So just kind of, I want to dig a little deeper into that. So gender identity or expression is, in the eyes of the law, equally as important. It's an equally as a protected trait. How can that be? Because they seem to be opposing interests. You can't say, because like in order to not discriminate against someone's gender identity, like Jessica Yaniv, you are by definition discriminating against the women's right to sex segregated places. Like we as a society decided a long time ago that there were a few spaces that women needed to be female only. Prisons, obviously, bathrooms, obviously, and now
rape crisis
centers,
like a rape counseling center. There was a case in British Columbia, Kimberly Nixon, who was a dude and a big person too, like 6 foot something, 250 pounds, really big person, and wanted to be a volunteer counselor at a rape crisis center in Vancouver. And the BC government has now cut off funding to that rape crisis center because that rape crisis center says we have only females as staff and as volunteers, right? Because the last thing a woman wants to do in that situation is to be talking to a man. So, you know, it's, no, you're right. It's contradictory. It's completely contradictory. The Human Rights Act doesn't, it's not a human, under human rights legislation, is not a human right for women to have female only spaces. That doesn't exist yet at law. But this is a reason why people need to be engaged in the democratic process and ask candidates, you know, federally, provincially, what's your stance on this?
Yeah, well, we talked about, for sure, we talked about at the beginning of the show, the difference between the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. And as you said, right now, the letter of the law does not give women the right to female-only spaces. But I feel like the spirit of the law of what human rights laws are supposed to be, I feel like it should be. You know, I feel like most people would agree that that's probably a reasonable thing. Is your center, are you guys are you working as high as that, like trying to actually change laws at the top level? Or is it mostly helping people who are going afoul of the laws?
Well, the big focus is to provide the legal assistance to people like Galaxy Beauty Pageant or these women in Vancouver who were, being pressured to provide a Brazilian bikini wax to somebody with male genitalia. So I always encourage people, though, to be active in the democratic process, because most politicians are followers, not leaders. I don't mean that in a pejorative way or a negative way, but just as a statement of fact. If they sense, it's kind of, which way is the wind blowing? If they sense that the majority of their constituents are keen on having women have safe spaces, they're going to respond accordingly. So,
that's a great
we advocate for legislative change, absolutely, but that's a small,
sort of a secondary
small portion of our resources. Yeah,
I got you. Well, I mean, as you said, we're good. We're good. We can. Yeah, I'll never stop. I'll never stop.
Yeah, Rob won't shut up. So either I mute his microphone or I just cut him off.
Can't do that, brother. I can't do that.
And I will let you go, John. I really appreciate your time. I really want to have you back. So that's why I'm trying to keep it as timely as possible, or else you won't want to come because Rob's eating all of your time and you can actually help clients that need the help. So we really appreciate your time, John. Thanks again for being on the show. And there's I know there's other events, and Justin has already confirmed that he's added me to your news release, or Julian, sorry, not Justin. Julian has added me to your news press release. I guess.
Newsletter.
No, it's not a newsletter. It's just for the people of the press.
News release list.
Okay, we got. We're wherever it is, we're on.
It's a pleasure being with you and with all of your viewers and listeners, and I look forward to the next time.
Thanks so much,
John.
We love having you on.
See you. Bye.
See you, John. Yeah,
you and your fucking rabbit holes.
No, man. The audience wants it. They like this stuff.
But we got to be good on time because there's six other stories. I just want to make sure he comes back.
I mean, to be fair, I think I get the feeling like he likes talking about this. People like coming on the show, right? Like pretty much all of our guests, like you can tell they enjoy coming on here.
It's because we don't censor them. We don't stop them from saying what they want to say. But at the same time, John is very clever on using the prop. You can tell he's a lawyer because he uses the right terms. Like he didn't say he or she, he said that person. We all know what he means by calling him that person, but he doesn't use pronouns. He doesn't encourage their behavior, but at the same time, he's saying exactly what we know exactly what he's saying when he says person. But it's interesting. I need to dig more into Bill C-16 because that's before me creating content and being as aware as I am right now. But when I recorded with Billboard Chris a few weeks ago, he said the same thing, that Bill 16 is just insanity. Because I need to research more what he said, because basically, if I heard John properly, he said that men like that as per the 2016 liberal bill C-16, sex and gender expression are the same.
That's
meaning
wild.
that fully intact men, as per the law, have the same right as a woman. Just because they say that they're a man, or they say that they're a woman. Like, that's insane.
Wild.
I need to go check that out afterwards because that's crazy.
In the eyes of the law, gender identity is as protected as actual biological sex. And yet it's almost like a paradox in the law, because by granting that gender identity protected status, you actually weaken the protected status of sex. So it seems to me like a massive problem with the law. It's a paradox. And if, it leads to exactly the kind of situations that John's talking about here today. A guy who's able to go to a beauty pageant, he wants to change with the women. He wants to change with the girls. And there's not a thing they can say about it. There's not a thing they can do, because...
How did they call it again? How did they call it? The right? It's constitutional. It's not constitutional right. Because you asked him a good question about if they lodge a human rights complaint. Human rights complaint, huh?
Yeah, the person who lodges it never has to pay. So
that's insane.
That's crazy. Insane. It's crazy because they provide the lawyers for it. So I see why they might have done that.
That's taxpayers, right? That's even more insane because we're literally paying for a dude with balls that's complaining that women don't want to shave his fucking testicle. He literally offered people to make that go away by giving him money. Now the same dude that's been taking videos of himself in the women's bathrooms is actually trying to compete in a women's pageant and is lodging a complaint against them because he can't, because they don't want him. So free, making money. And this is exactly what the fuck happens when the patients are running the asylum.
The asylum. Yep. And it's just, it totally incentivized. I understand why they might want to do that. If you were, say, someone who was genuinely being discriminated against, and you were poor, you're still able to make a complaint, but like there has to be some, like, this just creates such a huge loophole for bad actors to do exactly what this Jessica Yaniv guy is doing, which is essentially a shakedown business. You know, he's going to all these women, slapping them with a human rights violation, terrifying the shit out of them, because as John said, they're all immigrant women. They're just trying to run their small business. They probably don't know the ins and outs of the law. They're terrified. And, you know, then he slides around and is like, oh, you know, if you want it to go away, you can make, you know, a small donation, only $2,000, only $5,000. And a lot of people do it. As John said, it's often far cheaper, but it's not right. It's not, we can't incentivize this kind of antisocial, you know, borderline psychotic behavior. You know, what's really fucked up is if he actually gets in that pageant, he'll probably win. He'll probably win for being so stunning and brave. He'll win. Oh, he's so brave. But this is just, I believe this is just like this guy's just like a classic psychopath, antisocial. He does not care what he's doing, and it's just a grift for him, a shakedown, a way to make money.
Hey, bro, we're gonna do something crazy right now. So my wife, so over the past few days since my son has been born, I've done 95% of the feeding, and that's 8 feedings a day, right? Every 3 hours. So he's really used to me feeding him, and now he's not.
Oh, you're gonna feed him on air? Okay, cool.
Well, I'm not gonna feed him on air. I'm not gonna show him on air, but yeah, see, I'll show the little legsies right here. He is very small, brother. But
man, babies that small, they scare the shit out of me, man. That soft spot on their head, I'm like, oh, I don't want to.
Bro, I'm 230 pounds. That breaks everything. How many times have I broken stuff like, oh, I'm gonna fix it, snap. So guys, I'm feeding my son as we're talking. So if you want to take some comments,
I'll take a few comments.
Approach our next subject of what's going on with Dan Bongino.
Give me 2 or 3 minutes for comments, and then we'll jump into the Dan Bongino. Pam says John is 100% right. Pushback is necessary. That's when he's just. I got all the respect in the world for what John does. I think it's, as he said, what was like the woman that they represented originally had gone to 17 law firms. Remember at the end when he talked about the cowardice of politicians? It's not just politicians. 17 law firms that said, no, we don't want to touch it. And I bet you probably every single one of them agreed she was right. But they see which way the wind's blowing, and they're cowards. So it's heartening that there are some people out there doing what needs to be done.
But again, the biggest irony in there is the fact that the same people that want us to protect those immigrants, to give them all of the social services, even they didn't contribute, are now protecting a dude.
Well, and that makes perfect sense when, we talk a lot about the hierarchy of oppression that is at the basis of woke identity politics. Yes, of course, they will always champion the immigrants' rights if it's against, say, a white males or something. But when it becomes the immigrant versus a trans person, because trans sits at the very top of the oppression pyramid right now for the woke left, so that immigrant can fucking hit the bricks, right? They don't care. But especially the illegal immigrant, but generally the immigrant is probably 4th or 5th on the list. Still, higher enough again if it's against, if there was a dispute versus me or you as just a white guy. We're fucked. They're definitely going to take that side. But if it's that immigrant versus a trans person, the immigrant, they're fucked. So, it's just, it makes perfect sense when you see how the left operates these days. You want to jump to the next one? Jason, how's it going, brother? Good to see you.
Yeah, go for it, but you're gonna have to do it. Do you have some videos about Kash Patel? What was going on with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel? Because I have some if you want to.
Yeah. Send me the videos, or even just play. The pretty much the only video I had was, it would have been better for the other story about Mark Carney. I had some Mark Carney videos, but I think we played that one out.
Well, just give me a second here. I will bring them up because I have a bunch of them. Let me see here.
And as you're bringing them up, we can, I guess, talk a little bit about it. Obviously, the Epstein story is still big. The one thing that I find, you know, and I'll give credit where it's due. You know, I think the right is often called, or especially the MAGA is often, you know, maligned, or perhaps sometimes it's accurate, of saying, you know, it's a cult of personality around Trump, and Trump can do no wrong. But the way MAGA is acting now with this, they've proven that narrative, you know, they've turned that on its head, because the vast majority of them are not supporting Donald Trump on this.
No, and it's interesting you say that, because I did find a video of a guy just going through all the comments that are directed at Trump and how people are roasting Trump for doing what he's doing. So it's funny you say that, because I got a video of that. So
okay, yeah,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
and honestly, it's a good look for them, because it shows, you know, that they are not just going to give Trump a pass, no matter what he does, because whether, you know, however you feel about the Epstein case or what Trump should do, like, they clearly feel he's let them down, and they're letting them know it.
And they should, like that. Is it's the same reason why I'm always ripping into Pierre Poilievre, is because you need to hold the people that are supposed to represent you accountable for not doing it. So here is the first video I had, and it's what we're talking about is Dan Bangino has threatened last week to leave the FBI because of the way that Pam Bondi and the DOJ have handled the Epstein file. Then we heard that Kash Patel might be doing the same thing, so I got a video about that. And then we got Donald Trump's opinion on what's going on. And of course, I got a video of Trump getting roasted by his own voters about how he's handling this whole thing. Because if you remember, he was asked about it last week, and he's like, "Are we still talking about this?"
But
we've been talking about this since 2019. Yes, we're still talking about this. So here's the first video about it. Here is just the story about Dan Bongino, the former podcaster that has recorded a shit ton of podcasts about how the Democrats should be releasing the Epstein file, but here he is.
And Yamiche, there have been all these growing tensions between the FBI and the DOJ over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case, which has all this renewed attention. What can you tell us about that?
Well, two sources tell NBC News that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino is considering leaving his job after Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department effectively closed the Epstein case. In the past, both Bondi and Bongino have said that there is more to be revealed about Epstein. AG Bondi even once said she had the alleged Epstein client list on her desk, though the White House later clarified that she meant the Epstein files in general. But this week, a new memo from the DOJ and FBI concluded that there is no additional evidence to reveal. And it said Epstein died by suicide. That memo enraged many supporters of President Trump, who had accused the Biden administration and now the Trump administration of covering up aspects of the Epstein case. Some claim the case could implicate powerful and famous people. And according to two sources, this all came to a head at a meeting with Bondi, the FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy Director Bongino. One person who spoke to Bongino after the confrontation told NBC News, quote, Bongino is out of control furious. He is threatening to quit and torch Pam, AG Bondi, unless she's fired. An FBI spokesperson did not respond to requests for comment, and the DOJ declined to comment. The fight is dividing MAGA supporters, but two sources tell NBC News that President Trump has not lost confidence in anyone, and at this time, there is no expectation for any leadership changes at the FBI or DOJ. Laura?
All right, Yamiche, appreciate your reporting.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning.
So here's the first. I don't know, man.
Oh, yeah, it is. He's let himself go. But anyways, go ahead. He's gotten old.
So this is just to show you what a bit of the story is. Dan Bangino, the guy that's been talking against this for years, that is now deputy director or reporting directly, working directly with Kash Patel, director of the FBI, basically saying I'm going to quit over this because I'm not okay with the way they handled it. Good for him.
This
I'm
is
very
basically
like
the main story that brought Bongino, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so good for him for doing it. Because I talked against him because it wasn't right that he talks about it for years, and then because he's now part of the clan, he doesn't do anything about it. But now there were rumors. What I found to be interesting, and this is the video right here, is that there are supposedly rumors that Kash Patel has said that if Dan Bangino goes, so will he.
Thanks for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Christina Evans. We do have to continue on here with some of those top headlines coming out of Washington, D.C. I'm going to show you this live vantage point that we have there of the White House. So we have some major news, the storyline that we've been following. FBI Director Kash Patel is officially reacting to those resignation rumors. So if you've been with us here on Live Now from Fox, we've been discussing it with a few of our other hosts, but we do know that FBI Deputy Director this week, Dan Bongino, he was outraged after a closed-door White House meeting about the Department of Justice's review of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking files. This went on to spiral into a situation where there were rumors of resignation from the FBI director, Kash Patel. I want to put this up on your screen. This is what he put out on his X account, saying the conspiracy theories just aren't true, never have been. It's an honor to serve the president of the United States, at Trump. And he says, I'll continue to do so for as long as he calls on me. So for a bit more background on what's been happening there in Washington, D.C., between the FBI Deputy Director, Dan Bongino, and other prominent members, want to now check in with Fox's Mike Emanuel. He has the very latest.
I'd like to know what he means when he says the conspiracy theories.
Does he mean blurring inside the White House? Sources tell Fox Attorney General Pam Bondi and
himself? I don't think anyone thinks he actually did. You know what I mean? That doesn't even sound like a conspiracy theory to me.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I should have saved I should have said saved the post, but there's a company that specializes in looking at the metadata of videos to see if they're unedited, because you can tell, right, by, like, let's say you use an editing software like DaVinci or Premiere Pro or even CapCut, you can say that there's something that was done to the original video. And the company was saying that the video that was released as the raw footage from the DOJ had been edited, and they could tell that it was edited in Premiere Pro, that it was multiple videos stitched together. It was not a continuous video. So this is not a conspiracy theory. When you have a company that specializes in analyzing video content to see their authenticity, like, let's say, imagine that this was brought to court, that this is the real raw unedited version of the Epstein video, you can have any expert that specializes in this go against the crown to just say, hey bro, it ain't.
It's not.
It's been edited how it is. So for Kash Patel to say that there's a conspiracy here, I don't know. Again, like you're saying, I don't know if he's talking about the fact that Dan Bongino wants to quit, or the fact that he said he wanted to quit, because maybe that is the conspiracy he's talking about. Maybe he is saying that Epstein didn't kill himself, and there's no list of client, as in potential list of client. Is he talking about the video itself that's not raw? Like, he doesn't seem to tell us exactly. He's not a Kash Patel's not an idiot. He's not an idiot. Keep it vague, right?
Yeah, I think I don't really particularly care about any of the characters in this story, but I feel like Pam Bondi is definitely getting the shit end of the stick here a little bit. She's definitely being thrown under the bus. I don't think it's her fault they're not releasing the files. They were never going to. Donald Trump is not allowing her to do it. Why? Well, we can all speculate, but as we've said,
blackmail the deep state.
Yeah, as we said at the beginning, he's almost certainly implicated somewhere in these files. Doesn't necessarily mean he's out, fucking kids or anything, but he's in the file somewhere. There can't be any doubt about that. And I know people have said, oh, well, if that was true, Biden will release it. Yeah, no, probably not, because probably Hunter Biden's in there too, right? It's not partisan. It's all of them. They're all fucking, it's
they're all fucking yes.
Yeah, they're all engaged in this kind of corruption. Like, the only thing that's new about it is, that the elites have technologies like planes that they can fly their victims to, and videos that Epstein can film and blackmail these famous, powerful people with later. But this is the same shit that's been going on this is a kind of corruption. This is the medieval king or lord who goes through the village and plucks some peasant's wife and sends her to the castle to do whatever he wants with her, right? Like, this is a tale as old as time. And if people think this is only on the right or only on the left, they're sadly mistaken.
And yes, you're absolutely correct. But again, I'm surprised that I'm happy to see that people on the right are starting to push back, because
I think I
was looking, because I was looking at the videos of people not necessarily disagreeing, like because he's trying to call out the deep state, or trying to find reasons as to why Trump is doing it. Like, Trump can do no wrong, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
that is dogma 101 right there, right?
Yep. I would say, I'm surprised at the way MAGA had, there's always the odd. It's funny, most of the people who are actually, still taking Trump's sides are fairly large influencers, and you probably don't have to make too much of a stretch to say that they're probably, being paid to say these things. But the vast majority of just rank and file MAGA are not putting up with it. And I think I found that, pleasantly surprising. I don't think that kind of, on the left, I think they're still going to make excuses for their guys or girls, whoever, the left is, if one of a liberal politician is implicated in something, it's all about whataboutism, right? Oh, what about this? What about that? There's never any actual accountability. And so it is nice to see from the right now, not just sweeping this under the rug just because. And you can tell Donald Trump expected it. He expected the MAGA base to be like, oh, great, dear leader has spoken. We got to stop talking about Epstein now. Like, he literally thought, in all caps, tweeting out, "Stop talking about Epstein," was going to help. Clearly, he never heard about the Streisand effect, the Barbara Streisand effect. But essentially, it says that when you start drawing attention to, when you tell people don't look over there, what's going to happen? Everybody looks over there, right? So he kind of fucked himself with this.
Well, perfect seg. Again, I love when you feed me like this.
Yes.
Here's Donald Trump speaking about it, and this video is from about 16 hours ago. So this is the latest that I was able to find on what is Trump saying on that Pam Bondi, Dan Bangino, Kash Patel, "I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving,"
which they desperately need, because Putin is really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it. Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today.
Hold on. Let me. The first part was about Putin. Had nothing to do with anything, but I just enabled because the sound's not very good. But I just enabled the caption so that we can understand.
Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times, and he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape. I was going to ask you, on this 1-year anniversary.
So he's in good shape. So we're being told by the man himself that there's no problem with Dan Bongino when everything's going viral all over the place. And here's the last video I had on this, which I haven't watched yet, but I just fucking love that it was just. It's about, I think it's the post you were talking about in all caps saying, "Hey, are we still talking about this?"
Yeah. What did you say? What, my girls and boys or something? Yeah, just sort of like.
There you go. That's we're talking about the exact same one. So this is the post from Trump saying, "What's going on with my boys and in some cases, gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi." That's doing a fantastic job. So this video is just supposedly is showing how people are not very happy with Donald Trump, and we're talking about MAGA people.
Yeah. And honestly, that right there is all the proof you need that, like, this is above Pam Bondi's head. If there was anything she did wrong, he'd be tossing her under the bus so fast. But the fact that he's like, oh, she's doing such a great job, she's so good, it's because he directly told her, you cannot release these files. And what can she do at that point? She can. You know, I think.
But it's just, we literally saw the post from Trump, and those are the comments, and it's one after the other. Because again, this is a non-partisan issue. You cannot tell me. I have not met one single person since 2019 that told me that they actually believe that Epstein killed himself.
Nobody really believes that.
Not one. Not one. Now, are they going to die? Are they going to die on it, on that hill? No. But at the same time, I haven't met one person, no matter what their political affiliations were, that told me that, oh yeah, Epstein killed himself. Outside of the people that seem to want to be protected from the consequences of him not unliving himself.
Well, there's too many powerful people who are involved in this. Should we jump into some of these comments?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I saw another post again. I should have saved it, but it was basically saying that there's too many important people involved in this conspiracy that if it was ever exposed, it would crash the government in the US. I'm like, and all it said is let it fucking burn. And I completely agree. I do not give a fuck that this is a Democrat thing. It's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a political thing at all. If people in government are responsible for hurting kids,
trafficking children,
up with kids, if it is some conspiracy that I've heard that the FBI and the CIA are behind it all, that they organize those rings of children in order to go after people they needed to control in Congress, I don't give a fuck who's behind it. If we have the data to expose all of them, fucking release all of them and let's see what the fuck happens to that system.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing I do not accept, is fucking with kids. Do not fuck with kids. This is my hard line. This is bring to the back of the shed type of situation.
Yeah,
I do not. This is one line. I do not. Oh, whatever is hiding behind that shed, I don't give a fuck what it is, but those guys need to get what they deserve. You do not fuck with kids, plain and simple.
I think a lot of the political elites, I think they thought this was an issue, and Donald Trump is at the top of this list, thought this was a classic culture war issue, and that they can, but it's almost like it's beyond them that people just have most normal people just have a red line when it comes to harming kids. It's really not any more complex politically. We'll take a few of these comments because seeing a bunch roll in.
Go for
take
it,
this one. Take one first. So Joe said, that's bullshit, Rob. And I was about to ask you what you meant, Joe. And then you said, ask Al Franken, Cuomo.
He says a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, so those are fair points. So what Joe's referring to is me saying that the left wouldn't, would protect their own. And these are all fair points, Joe. Obviously these are all men who, liberal politicians who have been forced to resign. I think there's a difference between those people who are kind of like peripheral, and especially they're white men. So that certainly makes it easier to banish them from the left. Whereas Trump is the head of the movement. Do you think? Let me ask you this, Joe. Do you honestly think if the Obama had some the allegations leveled against him, that all the Cuomos and the Spitzers and all those guys, that they would have shoved him out, or would they have defended him? Because I personally think that they would have. I think they're okay with throwing peripheral white men out, but I think they would have defended someone at the very top of the movement, like an Obama. But those are points, fair points. We'll start here. Jason says, I understand that if Bongino leaves, Patel is out too. Cash ain't doing this without him. And Jason actually said that
like
before.
It's not true.
Oh, no?
No, but that's what the video was showing, that he was saying he was calling conspiracy theories. And he said that he did not say that. So
I feel like those are the kind of things that these people say, like, oh, we're not going to resign. We're not going to resign until, they resign. Usually that's how it happens. But as you said, all we can go by is what they say at this point. There's a great comment by Jason. Here's the real question. If there's nothing to see with the Epstein files, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? Mm-hmm. If I were her, I'd be demanding, I'd be like banging on the doors. And I actually saw something saying she's ready to talk. I don't know if that's true.
I saw that too.
but that would be very, very interesting.
She's 20 years in jail, bro. She's 20 years in jail for a list that don't exist. If there's no list, that means there's no proof of anything.
Why is she in jail? Yeah, why is she in jail?
Release her.
All I would say is they better double check the batteries on the video cameras pointed at her cell, because you got a feeling like they might malfunction sometime soon.
And the two guys responsible for making sure she's okay will probably be on lunch.
Have a nap or something.
Off. They fell asleep somehow because, oh man, yeah, it's this is where it's going.
Yep, absolutely. Joe, my favorite is how Trump accused Obama, Hillary, and Biden of writing the Epstein files. Yeah, I mean, Trump's flailing. He's flailing big time. He clearly does not want that list released. I don't know why. This is kind of what I mean when I say like Trump. He's clearly not an idiot. In some ways, especially when it comes to like media manipulation, he's a genius. He understands how to work the media and that kind of stuff. But he's not a long-term strategic thinker. I don't know why he allowed himself to get put in this position. He knew he was never going to release those files. So why would he allow Pam Bondi at the beginning of his administration to do all that dog and pony show, right? Oh, I've got the list on my desk, and I think he thought maybe it was going to peter out, but he doesn't understand his base if he thought that, because I could have told you that this was not ever going to peter out for the MAGA base.
You know, maybe it's one thing to remember is that in social media time, or even in news cycles now, it's so short, the attention span.
That's right.
That he probably thought and bet on the fact that he believed at least that would just go away, but clearly it doesn't. It's not going to go away because it's bipartisan, and I don't think that anybody can call themselves somewhat with common sense if you let that one go, because I will never let it go. I will always talk. I've been talking about this since 2019. I will continue to talk about this because, once again, that's my hard line. You do not fuck with kids. And Jason said about the Maxwell, I've been saying the same thing for, like, I was talking about this last week. How the fuck is she still in jail? So there's too many problems. There's too coincidences, because don't forget, Epstein was in prison twice. The first time he was in prison, there was also some problems with cameras. Now, the second time he goes, there's problem with the camera. He hangs himself and the guards are sleeping. And then you have Diddy, the diddler for Hollywood. That same thing. He walked on human trafficking, got literally a slap on the wrist. So no matter where you look, you're like, okay, let's all admit that those guys are the middleman. The Epstein are not the top of the food chain. The Diddy are not the top of the food chain. There's somebody on top of that are using those people as a buffer zone between them and the clients. If they ever get caught, guess what? You will be paraded in front of people as the problem, but the top is never fucking exposed. As a lot of people
we won't even hear about it because they'll be let out the back door.
And there's some people that are calling it two wings of the same bird. The left, the right doesn't matter, because it ain't fucking. It's not the left that controls the left or the right that controls the right. It's the same bird, and it doesn't fucking care that it's wing number 1 or wing number 2, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I think what you said is a good point. I think Trump was expecting this to blow over, and I guess in his defense. The vast majority of stories do blow over, but I think the point stands that, he does. I think he didn't really understand his base on this one issue, and I think maybe he drank his own Kool-Aid a little. And he thought that he would just be able to finesse his way out of this, and it does not. He's flailing now, and he's in quicksand. The more he struggles, the deeper he's getting sucked down. So I don't know.
We'll keep it up. We'll keep talking about it, because I'm really curious to see
where he goes
eventually going. No, because how much you want to bet? The story, this is my prediction. This is my tinfoil hat prediction. Is that the story is going to be forgotten for a little while, because there's something in the news that's going to happen that's going to be so big that's going to take over the whole news cycle. And that's what tends to happen. If you notice, every single time somebody big gets exposed about something, there's something unrelated to anything that just happens.
Unrelated.
Of course. It's
we saw bombing Iran in 20 minutes. But yeah, it's classic move. It's called wag the dog, right? You get the tail that wags the dog, and it's a famous strategy for people in power to. Even Bill Clinton did it, right? He would bomb Sarajevo, or I saw this documentary on the Monica Lewinsky trial, and they showed how every time it was in the news, there was a bombing the next day. You know what I mean? Like in some America was spreading freedom the next day. So it's hard to believe that these guys aren't doing this on purpose.
But I think it's going to need to be bigger than just.
It's going to have to be real big. It's going to have to be real big.
Because clearly, Iran did not even take them out of the news. They did not take Epstein out of the news cycle.
No, that's right.
So the damage is done, right? The damage is done. They can't get away with it.
It's going to have to be big. It's going to have to be big for sure.
100%. It's not good because it's going to be bad.
Well, if and when it happens,
that story,
we'll have to show this clip of the last 2 minutes of us talking, because
let's just finish with Bumpy what he's saying, because I totally agree, and I think it already has achieved that. Where my prediction is Epstein is the new JFK.
Oh yeah, and by that I assume
already there.
He means like just the sort of foundational
magic bullet
conspiracy theory. Yeah.
The
Kinda
one bullet that went in, out, and same thing as Epstein, right?
Well,
camera malfunctions.
And just I assume Bumpy also means in terms of scale, as in we'll probably be talking about this 3 decades from now, 4 decades from now. People will be talking about
in 6 years, bro. It started in 2019,
and it feels like it's just getting started, to be honest.
And I think that Trump is going to make it worse.
Yeah, I think so.
Because his base is going to continue talking. The people on the left are going to be outraged now because they couldn't be outraged against Biden. So Trump is going to get it from all sides like he always does. And you're going to have to start fucking dancing on that one. And I don't think he's that good of a dancer. Clearly, from the videos I've seen, these moves are not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right. So,
what are you talking about there? Jesus. What the fuck?
Sorry, I was a muscle memory from the weekend.
You were remembering your weekend exactly. What the fuck, man? Talking about Rob's weekends.
We'll move on. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to move on because it's going to be quick. Like I have a bunch of subjects. I just want to. I'll take 6 minutes. Just
bang through.
I'll do what Rob does and run through things.
So, I'll just take this last one because I believe this is a new commenter. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Sarge Mom says, I'd say Trump was high on the Epstein list. And also Bingus the Wise. Trump is in the list. Just wanted to take your guys' comments because I believe that you guys might be new here. Appreciate you commenting, and hopefully you stick around. But yes, of course he is. And that's exactly why he doesn't want to release this list. It's the only explanation that makes any kind of sense.
Whatever it means, he definitely is associated.
There's somewhere. That doesn't mean he's plowing. He's out there being a full-on pedo with kids, but he's in that list. He's in those files somewhere.
You know what we said last week is he was fully aware of what was going on, and that didn't stop him from doing business with those people.
This is what I truly. Yeah, he's not.
So that shows a moral problem. Yes. So is he a pedo or not? I don't know. Chances are we'll never know. But for people to tell me that he didn't know, that he's trying to sit on the files so that he can blackmail.
That's nonsense. That's nonsense.
The deep state, bro. You don't blackmail the deep state.
No.
The deep state is worth trillions of dollars every year, brother. They might blackmail you. That's what they do. So that whole part, I'm like, bro.
One way.
Plus, let's be honest here. If he started blackmailing the deep state, he would exactly what happened to JFK, what happened to him, and it wouldn't have been a little piece of ear. It would have been a full splatter of brain with magical bullets from everywhere.
Fight.
Again, there'd be magical bullets from everywhere, right? So here is something I wanted to talk about because, again, I talk about CBC all the fucking time. We need to hashtag defund the CBC. But here's a post from Canada Proud last week saying that while Canadians struggle to pay their bills, Liberal continue to use tax dollars to fund their based news. Last year, 1,831 employees at CBC took home a six-figure salary, taxpayer footing the bill of $240 million. When compared to the figures from 2015, this is an increase of 318%. So they're talking about 240. That's the part that is dedicated to salaries. And think about it. That's pretty fucking insane because this is a crown corporation that is funded by $1.4 billion in taxpayers' money every year. And you're talking about 240 million out of 1.4. So, bro, you're talking just over a fifth. Like, it's probably more than a fifth. It's almost a fourth. So you're looking, let's call it a fifth. Let's call it a fifth of that fucking $1.4 billion is going to pay people that make more than 100 grand. But this is just the first post. They posted again over the weekend. Well, that was 2 days ago. So that was on Saturday. And then Sunday, they actually showed the number. So how much has the CBC spent on six-figure salaries per year since 2015?
That's great.
It was 60 mil. It was 59.6 million in 2015, 63.6 in 2016, a 6.7% increase, and then 2017 an 8% increase, then 2018 a 13.5 increase, 2019 a 19.7. Turns out that in 2024 they were paying 24.5% more. But the numbers that you're seeing there is year over year. So they went from paying people six zero salary at $59.6 million to 240. And remember what we said, the average salary in Canada, it's a 300. Hold on, they had it on the other post. It's a 340%, 318% increase. Because the numbers that you're seeing here is year over year.
Year over year.
So the 318%, the 318% is really from 59.6% to 240, the 59.6 million to 240 million. But the point of the matter is that we've spoken about this many times before, where the average salary is around 65-ish thousand. You got the Canada Post that wants increase upon increase, and they just got another one. Crown Corporation that cannot survive without billions and dollars of taxpayers' money, yet they're always getting fucking raises. And now you see the CBC that is supposed to be on unbiased news provided by a crown corporation that is 100% tax funded, highly biased. 75% of their budget comes from taxpayers' money. The other 25 is ads. If you've ever tried to go on CBC, it's pack. It's ads all over the place. So we pay for people to make 6-digit salaries when the average salary in Canada is 65,000. Yet you have more than $240 million going to those employees. Like, that's more than 1,800 employees at CBC make more than 100 grand. Like,
well, that's go ahead. Hold on, I think. You're muted there, Nico.
Oh, here we go. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, cool. So basically, all I'm saying is that it's a crown corporation. So if you want to see the numbers, they're there.
Yeah,
you can go on their You can go on their website and find their numbers. They don't have a choice to publish them because they're public. It's a crown corporation. We fund them.
Well, those numbers right there are a perfect example of why crown corporations should either just not exist or should be only exist for a very few things that really need it. And when I say need it, I mean things that are necessary service to provide, but you can't actually make great money at it. A lot of the crown corporations like Via Rail, that's bullshit. Like the business model for having a profitable railway company, it's established. You don't need government to prop them up. CBC, it's skewed incentives, right? If like a regular business is going to think, okay, can we afford to give our guys 318% raise over 9 years? They're going to look at the numbers. Those numbers are going to be based on reality of the business, and they'll say either yes or no. And if they say yes, it will make sense within the business. But these guys, crown corporations, they don't need to worry about that. There's no discipline because they say they don't need. It doesn't need to matter if it's profitable, if they lose money, because whatever they lose, Big Brother is going to be in there and with an unlimited bank account, and that's, I could see the argument for why I say Canada Post should exist as a crown corporation, because they have to guarantee daily service to some very remote places that's probably not profitable for a regular company to do so, a private corporation. But all the other stuff like CBC, Via Rail, and I'm sure there's dozens others that are not as famous. There's no need for them to be crown corporations. They can sink or swim on their own. And if you have to have a crown corporation, there should be extreme penalties for needing to take more money from the government, as in the entire executive or CEO gets the fuck out and we hire new ones in.
Just to put it into perspective, there are 7,743 employees at the CBC. 6,576 were permanent, 400 were temporary, and 756 were contractual. If you look at the numbers that they used earlier, 1,841 of them making more than 100 grand, you're looking at 24%. And if I look at the employees that were permanent, temporary, and contractual, which it's the biggest number I can find, 24% of employees at CBC make more than 100 grand a year. That's basically what we're seeing.
And should they, do they actually like? And what would you say is the average Canadian salary? Was it 60,000, give or take? Between
60 and 70,000, depending on the studies that you look at. With
is there that many people who should be making 40% more than the national average at the CBC? I would argue no.
Brother, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Well, Bumpy says, if Canada chose to sell the CBC, how much do you think we could get for it? I'll be generous and say 200 million, largely for archives and licenses. Yet how much should we spend every year on it? Yeah, I mean, it would be more like addition by subtraction, right? Just because we don't have to spend 1.3 billion every year. Even if we sold it for free, even if we gave it away, it would be a net win for us. I agree with you. There's probably value in the archives, the licenses, in the the catalog, the library of stuff. But whatever, it's if Canada just gave it to someone, it would be a large net benefit and said, you guys take care of it. We're not going to give you $1.3 billion anymore. But that's not going to happen. Certainly not as long as there's a liberal government, because regardless of what they all say, everybody understands that the CBC is a Liberal Party mouthpiece. It just is. You see it everywhere you look. You see it, and that's why we reference this all the time. The look inside yourself, Rosemary. People that might not remember, but she got a ton of heat from that. I remember seeing like liberal, posters saying she needs to be fired. She needs to be fired for asking what was an absolutely reasonable question.
Yeah. Yep.
And it just kind of gives the game away there, right? It's not really their job to report news as they see it. Their job is to prop up the Liberal Party.
So you want to take this comment and we'll call it a day?
Yep. Joe says, curious, when private companies buy ad time on CBC, who collects that money? Where does it go? As far as I know, that part of the business runs like a normal business. They sell ads, they get the money. If I were the other company, like CTV or what any of the other big Rogers, Bell, major Canadian media companies, I'd be banging the drum on this shit, because how can you compete against these guys who have
CTV News is also receiving hundreds of millions every year.
Oh, CTV does too?
Of course, global CTV. Most of our media gets. There is, behind the scene, I am trying to have funding added to this show so that we can grow it, right? So that we can have people helping us, so that we don't spend 5, 6, 7 hours a day while making zero money trying to grow a platform. And it turns out that there are funds out there for media that you can apply to. That there's money put aside from taxpayers' buckets to sponsor or to fund media, but they pick and choose who they want. Like guys like us are never going to get it. But there are
No.
places that I have spoken to people in the field, and they're like, yep, you can apply to that, you can apply to that, you can apply to that. But it's depending on them. And again, this is a nonpartisan issue because even Pierre Poilievre during his campaign said that he did not want to defund CBC or Radio-Canada. He said it on Radio-Canada when he was here in Montreal speaking on one of the biggest shows that is in Quebec. He said he did not want to defund them completely at all. But he also said as a campaign promise, I don't know if you remember that, but he wanted to give more money to independent media. So you know that, again, this is not a left versus right issue. Right now we're saying it's the left because it is the left that has been giving $1.4 billion to them. But at the end of the day, it's a crown corporation. It's always been owned by the government. And even the right, even our conservatives are not for fully defunding the CBC. And they still wanted to add independent media to their list. But can you consider a media independent if they take money directly from the government? And you know that, look at what they did with the CBC. They're directly shifting their policies because, as Rosemary was told, she needs to look within herself. And we've said this multiple times. You know that somebody took her behind the scene and just said, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
Oh yeah,
you cannot question this guy. And guess what? Ever since then, she's been swallowing the balls, the penis, and the gravy. Like,
yep, all of it. She understands. She understands what she has to do. All right, guys. I think we'll put a pin in her there. Excellent show as always. Glad to have John Carpay stop by, friend of the show. If you didn't catch that part of the show, you might want to go back and watch it because it was an excellent conversation.
John, man.
Yeah, John. Yeah, he's great. Guys, you could have been anywhere in the world today. You chose to be here with us, and we will always appreciate that. If you are new to the show and you like what we do here, if you think there's a space for this kind of independent journalism, common sense, nonpartisan, or at least, we have our biases, but we're open about them. Then you can remember to like and share the stream. And the best way you can support us is to become a member, which you can do for the low price of $2.99. And that will allow you to help support independent journalism and help build the community here. Other than that, folks, have an excellent day. We will see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. noon Eastern time.